Chosen one. Your spirit already knows what your mind is, just now catching up to. This message isn't a new instruction, it's confirmation of what you've already been feeling deep in your chest for months, even years. The assignment has been clear in heaven for a long time. The reason you've been restless, heavy, stirred, unable to blend back in is because you already carry the knowing. It's been waking you up at night. It's the ache behind your worship. It's the unspoken tension in rooms where everyone else seems at peace. You smile. You nod. You function, but your spirit is on edge. Not out of fear, but out of urgency. The assignment isn't optional anymore. It's present, and it's personal. You didn't stumble into this word. Heaven drew you here, because the time for spiritual suggestion has ended. This is now command-level obedience. You were not just invited, you were summoned, and your delay is no longer neutral. The assignment is not something you're still waiting to discover. It's something you've already heard, but have been afraid to fully acknowledge. Maybe it sounded too big. Maybe you didn't feel ready. Maybe you were hoping someone else would rise up and carry it instead. But the scroll has your name on it, and it won't pass to another until you say no outright. But you haven't said no. You've just been stuck in the middle, in the in-between, in the maybe later, in the delay that sounds like discernment but is really fear. And heaven is confronting it now. That's why you can't go back to normal. Why your old patterns now feel painful. Why environments you used to love now drain you. Why surface-level conversations feel like sand in your mouth. You're not broken, you're being realigned. The assignment has begun moving through your bones. And everything inside you is being rewired to match what's been written. This isn't just a spiritual mood. It's divine synchronization. You're not just sensitive right now, you're being synchronized with movement in the heavens. And that movement doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It waits for obedience. The assignment is clear. No more shrinking. No more waiting for more signs. No more pretending that confirmation means another prophetic word. You've already heard. Now you must move. Heaven is not speaking in riddles anymore. It's issuing clear instructions. You don't need a new word. You need follow-through. The prophecy was accurate. The dream was real. The sense you had in your spirit was not emotion. It was instruction. And the longer you wait, the more weight you carry, not because the burden is wrong, but because it was meant to be released. Obedience is the only safe response now. Not partial, not delayed, not filtered for public approval. Full, rough, trembling, immediate obedience. Chosen one. The pressure you feel is not punishment. It's the friction between your current position and your destined movement. The assignment has already gone ahead of you. It's moving forward. The question is not, are you called? It's, will you follow now? Let heaven hear your yes again, not as a soft agreement, but as a strategic act. Because your assignment doesn't just impact you. It affects systems. It interrupts patterns. It shakes atmospheres. When you obey, regions shift. Chains break. Scrolls turn. This is the level you're walking into. Not motivational. Not casual. Not experimental. Governmental. The kind of weight that changes lives. Changes cities. Changes timelines. You were built for this. And heaven is no longer allowing you to play small. You've been asking, when is my moment? God has been replying, Your moment started the day I whispered the assignment into your soul. And it did. From that moment forward, your life has been moving toward this. Every trial wasn't random, it was training. Every delay wasn't punishment, it was placement. And now, there's no more confusion. The assignment is clear. The only thing left is your response. As it is written in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 2 says, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." It's time to run. No more watching. No more asking for the map. The vision is already in you, and clarity is not coming, it's already here. So let your agreement echo. Let your feet start moving. Let your yes set fires in every region you touch. Comment below. 444. Let the number mark your readiness. Let it signal your response. Let it stand as heaven's record that you saw the vision and you ran. Like this message, so it reaches another chosen one who's been stuck in silence. Share it with someone who's been on the edge of movement but needed clarity. Subscribe to stay connected to this flow of prophetic instruction. The scroll is no longer closed. The assignment is no longer hidden. Now obey without delay. Chosen one. Obedience is not just about hearing, it's about moving. And now, every delay is costing more than you realize. Not because God is angry, but because the moment you're standing in is strategic. It's calibrated. It's been appointed. And heaven doesn't function on your comfort. It moves on timing. You've known this for a while now. Something in your soul has been whispering, you can't keep waiting. The space between instruction and action has started to fill with weight, an invisible heaviness that presses against your spirit when you hesitate. That's not anxiety. That's spiritual compression. Your spirit is reacting to missed motion. Because motion matters in the spirit realm. There are windows that open. And if you don't move within them, the assignment doesn't disappear, but the ease of alignment starts to fade. God's grace is still real, but His timing is specific. This is why things feel tighter, why hesitation now feels like torment, why what once was a delay now feels like disobedience. It's because the window has shifted from invitation to instruction. You're no longer being asked, you're being activated. And heaven is waiting on your move. What's on the line is not just opportunity, it's territory. There are places in the Spirit that will not open until you arrive in obedience. Your assignment is the key, and keys do not work in absence. The longer you stall, the more that door waits unopened. Not because it's locked forever, but because you are still outside of it. God has not changed His mind about you. He has not revoked your mantle, but He is no longer nurturing your indecision. There's a holy pressure on your shoulders because heaven is not playing. The scroll must be fulfilled. And you're the one holding the next movement. You may feel unqualified, unready, overwhelmed, but none of those feelings disqualify you. The only thing that can pause the scroll now is willful delay. And that's what this section is confronting, because your timeline isn't neutral, it's a signal. And if you stay offbeat, what was meant to flow will start to clog. You've seen the signs. Confirmations in conversation. Words that keep repeating. Dreams that carry the same urgency. Inner moments where God presses again. Now. But you've told yourself you need more time, more preparation, more external support. What if that's not true? What if everything you need has already been placed inside you, but fear has labeled it not enough? What if the clarity you're waiting for will only arrive once you move? What if the delay isn't from God, but from your own unwillingness to obey in motion? The early disciples didn't wait for perfect structure. They moved with the Spirit, and revelation came as they walked. You're not waiting on resources. You're not waiting on connections. You're not waiting on the right moment. You're waiting because fear disguised itself as logic. But logic will not carry the scroll. Only obedience will. And obedience looks like this: saying yes when your voice shakes, stepping forward when your plan feels incomplete, speaking truth even when you feel unqualified, choosing obedience even when it's costly and invisible. Chosen one. Your delay doesn't just affect you. It ripples. Every act of disobedience interrupts divine delivery. Someone else's freedom is on the other side of your motion. Someone else's confirmation is hidden in your words. Someone else's escape depends on your yes. That's not pressure. That's perspective. God trusts you with that kind of impact, not because you're flawless, but because you're sealed. The Spirit sees your heart, sees your weariness, sees your wrestling. But the time for inner wrestling is ending. It's time to walk it out. Obedience in this hour will feel like death to your comfort, but it will also birth dimensions of clarity you've been begging God for. The revelation isn't coming to your journal, it's coming to your journey. And your journey doesn't start when it feels safe. It starts when you move in fear-crushing obedience. The enemy's strategy is no longer temptation. It's timing disruption. He wants to make you pause until the moment passes. He doesn't have to stop you forever. He just needs to make you miss your window. But what he doesn't realize is that this time, you're no longer negotiating. You're choosing movement over mastery, obedience over applause, fire over delay, assignment over assumption. Because you felt the scroll shift. You felt your name stirring inside it. And now, everything in you must respond. Not next month. Not next we know. Obey without delay. The assignment is already moving. Chosen one. Stop explaining your fire. Stop watering it down. Stop trying to package your obedience in a way that feels palatable to those who were never meant to understand it. The assignment on your life is not up for debate. Neither is your anointing. You do not need permission to burn. You were never called to be understood. You were called to obey. From the moment heaven sealed your name, your flame became a threat to anything that prefers silence. Your very presence began to agitate atmospheres that were built on comfort, compromise, and control. This is why you felt tension, even in rooms that once embraced you. This is why your clarity feels like confrontation to people who still choose confusion. It's not pride. It's alignment. You didn't change your heart. You answered your scroll. You have spent too much energy explaining a fire that was never theirs to carry. They didn't walk through your wilderness. They didn't sit through your silence. They didn't bleed through your breaking. And they weren't there the night. God marked your mouth and rewired your spirit. So why are you still trying to get them to validate what heaven has already confirmed? Your assignment is not democratic. It was not voted in. It was written. This is not a brand. This is not a ministry strategy. This is a divine command. And every time you stop to explain, negotiate, or apologize for it, you delay the oil that was meant to be poured through you. They ask, why are you so intense now? Because obedience requires urgency. They ask, why can't you relax and just go with the flow? Because you were sealed to disrupt it. They say, You've changed. And, yes, glory changed you. And you are never going back. Chosen one. The version of you that needed agreement is gone. What remains is fire, truth, and clarity. You don't need to justify your movement. You need to walk in it. You don't owe them your process. You owe a God your obedience. You weren't made to explain. You were made to ignite. When Jeremiah was mocked for the weight of the word in his bones, he said in chapter 20, verse 9, "But his word was in my heart like a burning fire shut up in my bones. I was weary of holding it back, and I could not." End of quote. You've been feeling that same fire, that same burn behind your ribs, that same ache when you try to stay silent. And you need to know, it's not just emotion. It's evidence that you're marked, and marked ones don't play small. You've tried to be soft for the sake of peace, but your softness only stifled your scroll. You've tried to stay accessible to people who loved your brokenness but couldn't handle your healing. You've tried to shrink your fire into containers that made others comfortable, but all it did was suffocate your oil. No more. This is the part where you stop explaining and start advancing, because those who are for you will catch the flame and those who are not will remove themselves. Either way, you're moving, and you're doing it without disclaimers. You are not arrogant for walking boldly. You are not rebellious for leaving the system. You are not unstable for hearing God more clearly than ever before. You are aligned, and alignment always creates friction before it brings flow. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question you. Let them doubt you. But do not let them slow you. Because your pace now determines atmospheric obedience. If you hesitate for the sake of harmony, you're not being kind, you're being disobedient. You were made for this friction. You were built for this burning. Your voice was trained in silence for this exact hour. Stop wasting time waiting for applause. It's time to release the raw. Every scroll-sealed soul has had to face this threshold, the moment where you stop trying to explain your yes and simply walk it out. This is that moment. This is your threshold. This is where you burn without backup. And as you do, the right ones will find you. The sealed ones. The burning ones. The ones who don't need an explanation to follow the presence. The ones who are waiting for someone to go first. Your obedience is their confirmation. Your fire is their permission. So here's your declaration. 3 words. No disclaimers. No debate. Comment below. I won't explain. Let this be your marker. Let this be the moment where you draw the line in the spirit and choose alignment over approval. Say it as a prophetic act, as a release, as a shift. Not in rebellion, but in reverence. Because you don't need everyone to understand the fire. You just need to keep it burning. And from this moment forward, you will. Without apology, without defense, without delay. Because the scroll is open, the assignment is clear, and your voice is ready. Chosen one. You were built for this. You may not feel it right now. You may still be questioning your strength, replaying your past, measuring your present. But heaven has never doubted you. The one who formed you in fire knows exactly what he placed inside of you, and it's enough. Every loss you thought would break you was actually building you. Every closed door was a classroom. Every delay was a furnace. Every betrayal was a revealing. You didn't just survive seasons others ran from you, were refined by them. You walked through fire and came out with substance. And that substance is what qualifies you for this assignment. God doesn't use polished, perfected vessels. He uses broken ones that refused to stay shattered. He uses hearts that kept saying yes, even when the room was empty. He uses the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the ones who stayed faithful when no one was watching. That's you. And you're not walking into this with borrowed power, you're carrying earned weight. Don't let your insecurities argue with heaven's selection. God's choice was never based on public affirmation. His criteria has always been obedience. While others built platforms, you built altars. While others chased visibility, you chased his presence. While others performed, you were processed. That's why you're different. That's why you feel things others don't. That's why your discernment is sharper, your atmosphere more sensitive, your convictions more intense. You weren't built for crowds. You were formed for confrontation. Spiritual confrontation. The kind that requires depth, oil, and truth that cannot be shaken. And truthfully, you've already walked through more than most. You've endured cycles of silence where God seemed still, but your spirit kept stretching. You felt the pain of isolation, not because you were unworthy, but because you were being hidden for maturity. You were not being punished. You were being entrusted with depth, with purity, with language that others wouldn't dare speak, with a spirit that wouldn't settle for surface. And now, you wonder if you're ready. You're not just ready, you've been prepared. Don't confuse unfamiliar territory with unreadiness. Every pioneer must walk into something they've never seen before. That's what makes it a scroll-assigned assignment. If it were familiar, it wouldn't require faith. But the fact that it scares you proves you're standing at the edge of your divine appointment. This is why your old rhythms feel broken, why your comfort zones feel contaminated. You're not being dramatic, you're outgrowing your former alignment. You've reached the capacity of your last season, and now the Spirit is expanding your tent through obedience. And expansion always feels like pressure. That pressure you feel, it's not spiritual warfare, it's spiritual labor. You're birthing a new level of you, a new roar, a new authority, a new mantle. The old version of you can't carry this weight, and that's okay. That version was the blueprint. This one is the building. You are becoming the version of you that heaven saw before time began. The version that walks in rooms and shifts the atmosphere. The version that doesn't second-guess what God already confirmed. The version that no longer apologizes for being too much, but realizes that being too much was the assignment all along. People don't have to understand the oil to respect the vessel. And you don't need applause to move. You don't need agreement to obey. What you carry isn't rooted in validation, it's rooted in vision. And the vision is still alive. It didn't die when they left. It didn't die when the door closed. It didn't die when your confidence cracked. It didn't even die when you tried to walk away. Because the vision wasn't yours to begin with. It was entrusted to you, and God has never revoked it. Let that silence your doubt. Let that correct your hesitation. Let that break the lie that you're too late, too broken, too tired. You are not late, you're right on divine schedule. You are not broken, you're battle-tested. You are not tired, you're carrying more weight than before. And that strength is proof. You're ready. You are walking in alignment now. And alignment doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like certainty even when your hands shake. It feels like peace under pressure. It feels like stillness in the storm. You don't need fireworks to confirm you're ready. You just need to move with the scroll. Every step you take now is prophetic. Every word you speak is strategic. Every room you enter is assigned. Every tear you cried was a seed. And now, the harvest begins. Not of platforms, not of fame, but of weight and wisdom. This is not about who sees you. This is about who receives the one who sent you. You don't show up for attention, you show up as activation. A signpost, a vessel, a spark of obedience that sets other souls ablaze. Chosen one. You were built for this. Don't let your history lie to you. Don't let fear delay you. Don't let small minds limit you. Don't let weariness numb you. You've already walked through the worst, part the crushing. What's left now is pouring, and heaven is watching. Hell is trembling. Earth is waiting. Chosen one. This is your release hour. The scroll has been unsealed. The trumpet has sounded in the spirit. What was once a whisper is now a mandate in motion. You are not being prepared anymore. You are being positioned. The oil on your life is no longer in development. It is active, and it is needed now. Heaven has moved. The spirit has shifted. The moment has arrived, and those who are sealed are now being sent not with theory, but with fire. Not with applause, but with assignment. What you feel in your bones is not anxiety. It's a divine summons. You are not behind. You are exactly on time. The restlessness you've carried is proof. The divine discomfort, the loss of appetite for things that once fulfilled you, the way normal routines suddenly feel hollow. You've been marked for something more. And the more has now arrived. This isn't potential anymore, it's appointment. You've heard it in prayer, felt it during worship, seen it in dreams, read it in confirmations. Heaven hasn't been quiet, it's been strategic. And now, the hour of your release is here, not to be seen, but to be deployed. You're not being raised up for attention. You're being sent out for execution, because what you carry is weight, and weight demands movement. Glory does not sit still, it flows. And when heaven declares release, nothing can delay it. Not opposition, not fear, not your past. What has been written must now be walked out. And so, you walk, not because you feel ready, but because heaven said so. You walk without needing full instructions. You move without needing applause. You obey without needing understanding. Because your feet are not following feeling, they're following the scroll. The scroll is no longer closed. It's been turning quietly. And now, the page with your name, your mantle, your mementos landed, and heaven is watching. Angels are aligning. Hell is nervous. Because you are not just rising, you are releasing. You're not releasing sermons. You're releasing disruption. You're not just releasing words. You're releasing reform. You're not stepping into rooms to be liked. You're stepping in to activate. This is why your oil had to be purified in silence. Why your mouth had to be shut until the timing was exact. Because now, when you speak, it's not just you speaking. It's scroll-activated fire that knows exactly where to land. And it will land. In dry places. In resistant atmospheres. In broken systems. In bloodlines plagued with patterns. In regions where mixture has reigned. You are not showing up to contribute, you're showing up to shift. That's what you were built for. That's why you had to wait. Because premature exposure would have leaked the oil. But now, You're sealed, no longer afraid to burn, no longer afraid to stand out, no longer waiting for open doors, because you are the open door. You are the breach point. The moment heaven chose to intervene, not because you have a platform, but because you carry fire. And fire always finds a way. It does not ask permission. It consumes. Your release will not look like everyone else's. Some will see it. Some won't. Some will celebrate it. Others will question it. None of that matters, because heaven sees it. And heaven will not allow you to shrink back. Now, this is the hour you obey at full volume. This is the hour you walk, like the path was made for you, because it was. This is the hour you speak with. Wait. Not to be heard, but to break open dimensions. Don't minimize this moment. Don't explain it away. Don't delay it with questions you already have answers to. You know what God said. You've known for a long time. This is just your permission to finally walk in it. As we read in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Wherever you go, he goes. That's the difference between the sent and the self-appointed. You weren't self-activated. You were God-mobilized. This is not your idea. This is your assignment. So, walk, run, declare, build, write, move. Don't stall. Don't shrink. Don't circle the mountain one more time. This is your release hour. And if something inside you knows this word was written for you, if your bones are burning and your spirit won't sit, still then, let your obedience begin with one act of agreement. Like this message, if you know your scroll has just turned, share it with someone who's carrying fire but hasn't yet stepped out. Subscribe if you know you need to stay aligned with future instructions and release words. The hour is here. The heavens are watching. And you, chosen on air, finally in motion. Chosen one. There is no more room for mixture. Not in your spirit. Not in your decisions. Not in your assignments. The fire on your life demands purity. Not perfection, but alignment. This next level will not tolerate what the last level allowed. You cannot walk into promise while dragging the fragments of compromise behind you. Mixture is subtle. It looks like half surrender. It sounds like cautious yeses. It feels like obedience laced with hesitation. But heaven sees it clearly. Mixture is when your mouth says, "Send me, Lord." But your lifestyle says, "But not there, not yet, not like that." And God, being holy, will not send pure fire through a vessel divided in allegiance. This is why some doors haven't opened. Not because you're unqualified, but because you're uncleansed in specific dimensions. And God, in His mercy, is holding back release until your altar is clear. Because a mixed fire cannot sustain scroll weight. It burns too fast or not at all. And this assignment requires clean combustion. You can no longer speak in tongues, but still agree with fear. You can no longer prophesy breakthrough, but secretly partner with bitterness. You can no longer lift your hands in worship while refusing to drop the habits that dull your discernment. This is not condemnation, it's refinement. Heaven isn't pointing out mixture to shame you, but to purify you. The urgency in your spirit isn't pressure, it's a summons to holiness. Not legalism, not performance. Holiness, set-apartness, undivided affection. Because the oil you carry is too sacred to sit next to compromise. You've been feeling it already. the tension in your soul, the resistance when you try to return to old patterns, the spiritual nausea when you entertain voices that no longer speak life. That's not mood, that's mixture rejection. Your spirit has already upgraded. And now, everything that doesn't match must be removed. You've asked for clarity. God gave it. You've asked for breakthrough. God's ready to release it. But now heaven is asking you, will you purify the vessel? Because what's coming next will land heavy. And only a clean altar can carry that kind of flame without cracking. Purity is no longer optional. It is your entry key to movement. Anything that grieves the spirit must go not out of fear, but out of reverence. That friendship you've been wrestling with, if it dilutes your fire, it's already costing too much. That hidden habit, it's not just a weakness, it's a wedge. That compromise you keep justifying, it's delaying your scroll's progression. And now, heaven is confronting it not in anger, but in invitation. You are being summoned into unmixed fire. And that fire will do what charisma cannot. It will cut through atmospheres. It will awaken others. It will burn in places you've never stepped, but only if you burn clean. As we read in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." Purity opens eyes. Purity grants access. Purity allows proximity. You've been asking to see more, to hear clearer, to walk deeper, and God is saying, then purify. Let the mixture burn. This doesn't mean you isolate. It means you consecrate. It means you begin filtering your time, your voice, your focus through the lens of the scroll. If it doesn't serve the scroll, it's not neutral. It's a threat. This will be painful at times. You will grieve certain connections. You will wrestle with old rhythms. But the fire will not let you go backwards. Because you know too much now. You've tasted the weight of real alignment. You've felt the clarity of consecrated space. You've walked in the holy tension of heaven-breathed instruction. You are not going back. So if you feel the Spirit calling you into a higher level of purity, not for image, but for intimacy, respond. If you feel the urgency to clean the altar, to remove what remains from the last version of you, don't wait. Let the mixture burn today. Because what's coming is worth more than what you're afraid to lose. Comment below. 777, a number of divine completion and spiritual cleansing. Let it be your public, yes. Let it mark your turning. Let it witness your inner decision. I choose purity over popularity. I choose holiness over hesitation. I choose alignment over access. Heaven is watching. The scroll is still turning. And you zealed Unia, stepping into unmixed fire. Chosen one. You can't take everyone with you. And deep down, you already know that. You felt the ache. You've seen the quiet distance forming. You've tried to explain your shift, hoping they'd understand. But the more you burn, the more they blink at you like strangers. That's not rejection. That's refinement. This next stretch of your assignment will cost you something sacred, proximity. Not because you've become proud, but because you've become pure. And purity separates, not by intention, but by atmosphere. When your life begins to carry concentrated obedience, it will start to push out everything and everyone that isn't aligned. You didn't walk away from them. You walked toward the flame. You didn't cut them off. You answered your scroll. You didn't grow cold. You grew clear. And now the Spirit is revealing what cannot remain attached. This has always been part of the process. It's not new. Look at Abraham, he couldn't bring Lot into the full inheritance. Look at Jesus, he left Nazareth in silence. Look at Paul, he lost his circle and gained a scroll. God doesn't take people to hurt you. He separates to protect the oil, because where you're going is weighty. And not everyone has the spiritual integrity to walk beside glory without trying to manipulate it. Not everyone has the hunger to maintain the same rhythm of obedience. Some of them love you, but they limit you. And love that limits isn't covenant. It's comfort. And comfort cannot cross into consecration. You've been trying to carry people who aren't called to your next. You've been dragging conversations that drain you. You've been making excuses for energies that now disrupt your clarity. And heaven is whispering, let them go. Don't explain. Just walk. End. Because the scroll does not wait for consensus. It moves at the speed of your obedience. And the longer you cling to what heaven has already moved you from, the heavier your steps become. You're not disloyal for choosing alignment. You're anointed for choosing assignment over attachment. This will feel like grief, because some of them were real. Some of them were safe. Some of them were necessary for the season you just left. But if they were meant to remain, they would have grown with you. And what God joins in spirit, He sustains through fire. If they can't stand the heat, they were never sealed to your altar. The truth is, some of them only recognized you when you were small. They were comfortable with your weakness, unsure what to do with your strength. They were close when you were broken, unsure how to walk beside your restoration. They didn't betray you. They just outlived their season. And that's okay. Release them without bitterness. Bless them as you walk away. But don't look back, because what's ahead of you is not a social circle, it's a spiritual summons. The further you go, the quieter it gets. Not because you're alone, but because heaven is filtering the voices. You're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. There are people you haven't met yet whose frequency matches the fire on your life now. There are alignments being prepared that carry covenant, not competition. There are voices waiting to honor what you've carried in silence. But they cannot find you while you're still entangled with what's already expired. You've asked for elevation. This is what it looks like. Fewer phone calls. Less noise. More presence. More fire. Fewer distractions. Clearer paths. And yes, some silent goodbyes. Chosen one. Don't grieve the subtraction. Honor the shift. It means you're moving. It means your steps are being measured. It means your name is echoing in the heavens. It means your mantle is activating. You're not being cut off. You're being cut loose from everything that would have slowed your scroll. This is how chosen ones walk, with tears sometimes. Yes, but with undeniable clarity. Because we don't live for social validation. We live for assignment completion. And no assignment is ever completed at the cost of obedience. You are not being asked to isolate. You are being commanded to consecrate. And consecration always begins with a clean circle. Not because others are evil, but because oil is expensive and proximity is access. And not everyone should have access to what you carry. The ones who remain will match your rhythm. The ones who stay will honor your oil. The ones who come next will not need explanations. They will recognize the fire and guard it with you. So let the shift happen. Let the voices fade. Let the space widen. Don't panic. Heaven is curating your circle. And what's coming is worth every empty room. Chosen one. Old wineskins won't hold new orders. What you're stepping into now cannot be carried using past strategies, familiar rhythms, or recycled obedience. The scroll has shifted, and with it, the instruction has changed. And if you try to obey this fresh assignment using systems that served the old season, the result will be spillage. Not because the word was wrong, but because the container was outdated. You already feel it. The restlessness with old routines, the inner resistance to methods that once brought clarity. It's not that you're ungrateful for where you've been, it's that your spirit is too full to be managed by what no longer fits. You've outgrown the mold, not in pride, but in purpose. What served you then cannot sustain you now. You can't fast the same way. You can't worship the same way. You can't manage your time the same way. You can't navigate warfare the same way, because the level has changed, and heaven is calling for alignment in structure as much as in spirit. This is the mistake many make. They try to carry the next phase with the muscle memory of the last one. They default to what's familiar, what's predictable, what's worked before. But this scroll doesn't respond to recycled methods. It responds to fresh obedience. The cloud has moved, and so must your entire rhythm. God is now asking you to rebuild your internal infrastructure. Your prayer life must deepen, not just in time, but in target. Your discernment must sharpen, not just to detect demons, but to detect divine adjustments. Your schedule must be restructured, not to fit in spiritual things, but to revolve around them. Because this scroll requires hosting, not just holding. You are not simply carrying fire, you're being asked to house it. And that requires an altar, a place, a pattern, a posture that can sustain the weight of what's now being released through your obedience. The wine is fresh, but if the wineskin is brittle, the result will be breakage. This is why things have felt unstable lately. Why what once brought clarity now feels cluttered. Why your old process feels like it's working against you. It's not the scroll, it's the structure. Heaven is telling you, upgrade the wineskin. This doesn't mean you discard everything. It means you ask, does this still fit the weight I carry? Does this mindset still serve the movement? Does this habit still lead me to holiness? Does this daily rhythm still honor the scroll? Because the difference between fatigue and flow is often structure, and heaven is done pouring into leaky vessels. This next stretch requires durability, flexibility, capacity. If you don't build new systems for what you're receiving, you will waste what others are praying to carry. You have crossed into a different realm of obedience. This is not about inspiration. This is about infrastructure. God isn't just giving you fire, He's giving you blueprints. He's not just speaking, He's designing. And every adjustment He's asking for is a preparation for outpouring. That's why your sleep patterns are shifting. That's why He's interrupting your free time. That's why the random chaos is actually reordering in disguise. Because heaven is reshaping your temple for habitation, not visitation. You are not being punished, you're being positioned. What's coming through you is too holy to rest on shaky rhythms. And God will not allow the glory to rest where the vessel is unprepared. So, if He's asking you to rebuild, rebuild. If He's calling you to reset your hours, your input, your circle reset. If He's highlighting systems that worked for survival but not for governance, dismantle and redesign. Because what you're walking into is not just new, it's weighty. And the wineskin must match the wine. The container must match the capacity. The framework must be able to handle flow without fracture. This is not a step back. This is a step deeper, into consecration, into intentionality, into rhythms that don't just carry God's presence, but sustain it under pressure. So don't be afraid to dismantle what used to work. Don't hold on to outdated methods just because they were once fruitful. The fruit was for then, the fire is for now, and fire needs fresh space to move. As Jesus said in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 2, verse 22 says, "And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins." Emza, that's where you are. Not being judged, not being ignored, being invited to rebuild, because the new wine is already here. The question is, will you build for it? Chosen one. Don't just receive the new scroll, honor it with structure. Don't just feel the shift, frame your life around it. Because what you do in secret now will determine what you can carry in public later. You are not just being called to burn, you're being trusted to contain fire without breaking. That begins with a new wineskin, and you are ready. Chosen one. You are heaven's breach point, the place where glory breaks protocol, the moment where God interrupts patterns, the vessel through which the divine agenda pushes into earthly resistance. You were not sent to blend. You were planted to pierceto, tear through darkness, tradition, and delay with the force of raw obedience. This is why your journey has never felt casual, why every decision seems weightier than others, why your yes always costs more. It's not punishment, it's placement. You were set as a collision point between realms, where light pushes against shadow, where the scroll cuts through silence, where spiritual awakening meets human hesitation. You are not just a believer, you are a spiritual intersection, where heaven speaks and earth must respond, where the word becomes activation, not just information. That's why you can't fit in. Why the conversations around you feel dull. Why passive faith makes your spirit cringe. Because you were never meant to sit in maintenance mode. You were built for momentum. You were not born to keep peace in dead places. You were chosen to resurrect alignment. Where you go, the spiritual weather changes, not because you shout, but because you carry scroll weight. The atmosphere knows when a sealed one enters. The unseen realm leans in. Demonic structures begin to tremble. People either wake up or walk away. Your very presence demands a response. You don't need a stage. You don't need a microphone. You are the breach point, the walking altar, the living scroll. Wherever you obey, breakthrough follows. Not because you force it, but because heaven flows through you. And that flow is not casual. It disrupts. It burns. It rearranges. This is why the warfare against you has been territorial, not personal. The enemy hasn't been trying to slow down your emotions. She's been trying to shut down your access point. Because if he can shut down the breach, he can delay divine movement. But he failed. You didn't cave. You didn't disappear. You may have wept, doubted, collapsed, but you got back up. And now, the breach is opening. The scroll is advancing. The assignment is pressing outward through your feet, your mouth, your presence. This is not metaphor. This is reality in the spirit. Your life is now a pressure point in enemy territory, a divine battering ram against everything that thought it had time to remain. You were sent to disturb systems that made room for demons, to awaken saints lulled by comfort, to confront patterns passed off as personality. And that confrontation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's your stillness. Sometimes it's your clarity. Sometimes it's the weight of your silence that does what 1,000 sermons cannot. You are not only a voice, you are a threshold guardian. Your alignment determines how much of heaven breaks through in your region, your family, your field, and God trusts you with that responsibility. You don't have to force the shift. You only have to remain obedient, because obedience is the breach. Every act of surrender a crack in the wall. Every word from the scroller fault line in enemy territory. Every time you choose purity over applause, truth over convenience, silence over reaction, heaven advances. So the question is no longer, will you be used? The question is, will you remain unclogged? Because the enemy knows he can't remove the assignment, but if he can distract the vessel, the breach narrows, the flow gets blocked, and divine momentum pauses, not because God stopped, but because you did. But not this time. You're awake now. You're aligned now. You're no longer explaining your fire. You're no longer negotiating with delay. You are standing where heaven broke protocol to position you. You are the moment someone else's breakthrough has been waiting for. And your obedience in this hour is not just personal, it's atmospheric. It's geographic. It's governmental. As we read in the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 12 says, "You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in." And that's you. Not a brand, not a trend. A repérer, a restorer, a breach point. So don't question your weight. Don't question your voice. Don't question the strange way God keeps positioning you in rooms that don't make sense. It's not strategy, it's scroll. It's not coincidence, it's command. And if you feel that truth trembling inside your spirit, if you feel the reality of it landing on your chest, then respond. Comment below, "I am the breach." Nup, 3 words, 4 syllables, 1 thunderclap in the spirit. Let it be written. Let it be declared. Let it mark your moment. Because the breach is open, and through you, heaven is moving. Chosen one, the shift will demand your whole voice. Not just the parts that feel safe. Not just the words that make others comfortable. Not just the side of you that still tries to be palatable. This scroll will not be carried by whispering saints. It will be advanced by those who have surrendered their silence. Heaven is no longer authorizing passive agreement. God isn't asking for quiet nods in private anymore. He's commanding bold obedience in public. What's on your life now carries too much weight to be hidden behind timidity or spiritual politeness. You've been quiet long enough. The season of watching is over. The assignment demands that you speak. This is not about being loud for attention. It's about being loud with alignment. You are not shouting to be heard by man. You are echoing heaven's frequency into regions that have been clogged by confusion, fear, mixture, and delay. Your voice doesn't just fill space. It pierces realms. It displaces lies. It breaks open scrolls for others still asleep. That's why your voice has been under attack. That's why your confidence has been tested. That's why every time you were about to speak, you were silenced by fear, distraction, or doubt. Because your voice isn't natural, it's strategic. It carries the scroll. And that scroll is not light. It's not sweet. It doesn't always inspire, it confronts. It awakens. It separates truth from performance. And for that reason, your voice is dangerous. Not everyone will understand your sound. Not everyone will celebrate your tone. But you must speak anyway. This is not a season of partial prophecy. This is a season of full scroll release, which means your voice can no longer be fragmented. No more hiding your clarity behind phrases like, "I'm just processing," or "maybe it's just me," or "I'll pray about it." Send, you've already heard. You already know. Now you must declare. The scroll is clear. The timing is divine. And the release point is your voice. Every time you speak from alignment, you open doors. You tear down walls. You awaken dormant mantles. You make room for people whose spirits have been surviving but starving. You set fire to atmospheres where slumber ruled. You make demons recalculate their assignment because your voice doesn't echo culture. It echoes authority. You don't need a microphone. You don't need a title. You don't need a pulpit. All you need is obedience. Say it at the dinner table. Say it in the car. Say it in prayer. Say it in the inbox. Say it with trembling. If you must but say it, because what you carry must now move through sound. This is why your past silence became suffocating, why staying quiet felt like betrayal. Because when your scroll reaches maturity, silence becomes disobedience. Not because you're rebellious, but because you're withholding blocks, heaven's release. There are people who will only wake up when you speak. There are atmospheres that will only shift when you declare. There are old structures that will only crack when your tone breaks the air. Your voice is not just emotional, it is governmental. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you acceptance in certain rooms. It will cost you relationships built on your silence. It will cost you reputation among the lukewarm. But heaven is trading you favor for fire. And fire is better. Fire doesn't win popularity. It wins territory. This is why Jesus often said, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Because he wasn't just releasing information, he was releasing spiritual shifts. And only those aligned could catch it. That's what your voice is now doing. It's not just speaking, it's summoning. The right people will hear your sound and move. The wrong ones will resist, and that's okay. The scroll wasn't sent to everyone. It was sent through you, for those ready to burn. As we read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 9 says, "Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth." You don't have to fabricate it. You don't have to inflate it. You don't have to impress anyone. The words are already in you. The scroll is already ready. All that's left is for you to release it with your whole voice. So let the fear fall off. Let the hesitation be silenced. Let the assignments find their sound again. This is your speaking season. Not for noise, but for shifts. Not for performance, but for prophetic order. Not for reaction, but for revelation. Speak even if your voice trembles. Speak even when the room doesn't respond. Speak because the scroll demands release, and you are the one heaven chose to release it. And if you feel this is for you, if your voice has been swelling, your scroll has been stirring, and you know deep in your bones that you cannot stay silent, another day, respond in the spirit and in action. Like this word, so others like you can find their sound again. Share it with someone who's carrying a locked-up scroll, but too afraid to speak. Subscribe to stay aligned with the flow of these releases. Don't miss the next activation. Don't miss your moment. Heaven is watching. The scroll is open. Your voice is the key. Now speak and don't hold back. Chosen one. No more hiding in prayer. No more using the secret place as a shelter from your responsibility. No more pretending to wait on confirmation when you've already been given clear instruction. The time for deep processing is over. Now is the time for public obedience. You have not been misunderstood by God. You have not been forgotten. You have not been left behind. What you're feeling is not delay its deployment. And the discomfort, that's not confusion. It's the friction between instruction and inactivity, because heaven is no longer releasing promises over you. It's releasing assignments through you. Yes, you love God. Yes, your heart is surrendered. But now you must decide. Will you move? Or will you hide behind prayer that's become avoidance? Because there comes a point when prayer becomes disobedience, when fasting turns into procrastination, when seeking confirmation is no longer discernment, but fear disguised as faith. You've asked God to move, but He's already moved you. You've begged for His voice, but He's already spoken through you. You're not being called to pray about it, you're being called to walk it out. God is not asking for more intercession on what's already been revealed. He's waiting for execution. Because no matter how powerful your prayer is, if your feet don't follow, the scroll remains closed in motion. And right now, it must open. It must flow. It must be released. This is where many spiritual people get stuck. We become so familiar with the presence that we forget its purpose. The secret place is where the instruction begins, but it's not where the obedience ends. At some point, the fire you carry must leave the altar and become action. You've been trained in prayer. You've heard clearly in the Spirit. You've stewarded dreams. You've warred in silence. But now, the Spirit is saying, come out. Lo, out of the shadow of delay, out of the safety of waiting, out of the excuse of just being led. Lo, you've already been led. Now you must lead not in position, but in posture. Lead by example. Lead by motion. Lead by being the first to say yes without full details. You've been given territory, but you can't govern from the cave. You've been given words, but they won't shift lives unless spoken. You've been given insight, but it must now translate into movement. You are not being called to retreat into more prayer meetings. You are being called to execute what was revealed in them. And yes, this is risky. Yes, it's vulnerable. But hiding under the banner of intimacy when God has instructed action is no longer holiness, it's hesitation. And hesitation now is rebellion in slow motion. You weren't created to sit in holy contemplation forever. You were created to be a flesh and blood scroll, walking through dry places and igniting them with obedience. You are not just prophetic in nature, you are apostolic in assignment. You don't just sense what God is doing, you walk it into the earth. You are not a vessel of emotional depth only. You are a vessel of strategic deployment. Your tears have weight. Your presence has purpose. Your steps activate new patterns in regions that have been stuck for decades. And those steps must be taken now. You've prayed long enough. You've journaled enough. You've laid on your face long enough. Heaven received your surrender. Now heaven is watching for your motion. It's not about performance. It's about flow. And if you don't flow when the scroll opens, someone's alignment suffers. Not because you're the answer, but because you're the activation point. You're the moment someone else's breakthrough passes through. So, stop hiding in spiritual activity. Stop delaying under the guise of depth. Stop saying, "Let me pray about it," when you already know. Just move. Move with fear, if you must. Move with trembling. Move while still feeling small. But move in the direction of your assignment. Because obedience doesn't wait for emotional certainty. Obedience waits for confirmation by fire, and you've already felt the flame. As we read in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 15 says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on.'" This is your moment. Your move on moment. From secrecy to visibility. From inner confirmation to external obedience. From processing to producing fruit. Heaven doesn't need your perfection. It needs your participation. So go. Not because you're done praying, but because your prayer has already become an instruction. Now is the time to build, to write, to release, to step, to open your mouth, to start the project, to make the call, to respond to the word. The scroll is not waiting for one more prayer. It's waiting for your feet, and they are ready. Chosen one. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. We dress it up. We spiritualize it. We justify it with caution, with counsel, with waiting for the perfect conditions, but the truth remains. When heaven speaks and you hesitate, you are not discerning. You are resisting. The time for lingering has ended. The hour has shifted. The scroll has advanced. And now, every moment of hesitation creates distance between you and divine alignment. This is not about losing God's love. It's about losing your place in His timing. Because while grace remains, windows close. You felt that tension, haven't you? That invisible pressure, that knowing inside that you are out of sync. Not because you're in sin, but because you're still stalling. Heaven doesn't measure alignment by how much you pray, measures it by how you respond. And now, response is everything. This assignment won't wait forever. The scroll must move. The fire must flow. And God, in His mercy, is confronting the hesitation before it becomes rebellion in disguise. Yes, rebellion can wear spiritual clothes. It can speak in prayer language. It can sound like wisdom, preparation, or clarity, but in the spirit, it still looks like no. And the more you delay, the more your feet get entangled in what should have already been behind you. Let this be your reckoning. You are not confused. You are called. You are not uncertain. You are unwilling. You are not seeking. You're stalling. And the enemy is using your overthinking to kill your obedience. He whispers, "What if it fails?" He plants fear. "What if you're wrong?" He suggests delay. Wait until you're more ready. Oh, but he's not trying to protect you. He's trying to paralyze you. Because the moment you move, heaven activates. And He knows that once you step out, there's no undoing it. Once the scroll breaks open through you, regions realign, patterns collapse, others start to awaken, and everything He built around your silence begins to crumble. That's why He's fought your yes so hard. Because your obedience is not just a private matter, it's a prophetic chain reaction. Someone else's escape is hidden inside your motion. Someone else's breakthrough is tied to your yes. Someone else's scroll opens after yours begins moving. So this is no longer about fear. This is about urgency. God is not just nudging. He is commanding, not to punish, but to preserve the flow. Because when the scroll pauses, delay turns into disqualification. You've read the stories. Saul lost his mantle not through evil, but through incomplete obedience. Moses missed the promised land because he disobeyed in frustration. The cost isn't always punishment. Sometimes the cost is replacement. But that's not your story. Because today, you're choosing to move. Today, the delay breaks. Today, the scroll continues. Today, your yes becomes fire again. This isn't the time to analyze. This is the time to act. The instruction is simple. The clarity is here. Now the only thing left is motion. Heaven is not confused. The angels are not waiting. The instruction has already left God's mouth. So the question is, will you move now? As we read in Psalm 119, verse 60, I made haste and did not delay to keep your commandments. That's the posture. Heaven is looking for haste, not sloppy urgency, but swift obedience, not forced activity, but willing momentum. When the Spirit says go, you move. Not because you know every detail, but because you trust the one who gave the scroll. If this word pierced you, if you feel the Spirit pressing on your heart right now, if you know you've been delaying a known instruction, then let this moment be your reset. Let this be the moment where the delay breaks off your timeline. Comment below. 333. 3 is the number of divine action, divine agreement, and divine fulfillment. Let it be your yes. Let it be your repentance. Let it be your turning point. Let it mark the hour you stopped circling the mountain and finally obeyed. No more delay. No more debating. No more retreating into maybe later. The scroll is moving. Your steps must match it. New obey. Chosen one. This isn't about you. It never was. It feels personal. It feels heavy. It feels like the weight belongs to your name, your story, your shoulders. But the truth is, your yes was never just for you. You were never called to carry this fire simply for your own breakthrough. You were entrusted with this scroll to unlock freedom for others you'll never meet. That's how heaven works. One person obeys, and whole bloodlines shift. One vessel surrenders, and entire regions wake up. One voice speaks, and nations realign. God doesn't raise up chosen ones for private benefit. He raises them for public transformation. This is why your process was so intense, why your waiting was so long, why your warfare came early. Because the impact of your obedience is generational, atmospheric, and beyond your awareness. You were set apart not just to live free, but to make space for others to follow, to be a breaker, to be a first, to be the one who didn't just survive, but tore through resistance so someone else could walk behind you without bleeding the way you did. That is the cost of being chosen. You bleed so others can breathe. You obey so others can escape. You go first so they know it's possible. And no, they may never thank you. They may never know your name. But the scroll you carry is not measured by applause, it's measured by obedience that triggers awakening. That word you're afraid to speak, It might be the word that breaks open someone else's locked-up purpose. That decision you've been hesitating on. It may be the choice that unlocks blessing for children you'll never hold. That action you're about to take. It might be the key that reroutes someone's entire timeline toward alignment. You will never fully know who's on the other side of your yes. But obedience isn't built on full knowledge, it's built on full surrender. This is what God has been trying to show you in the silence, that your story is not small, that your steps are not random, that your fire is not simply symbolic, it's strategic placement, a tool for heaven to shift entire bloodlines, ministries, neighborhoods, and timelines. So the moment you stall, something else stalls behind you. The moment you obey, a whole system starts moving again. You are not just a person, you are a spiritual chain reaction. And the more deeply you internalize this, the more quickly you will act. Because when you realize your life is not yours, you stop waiting for comfort. When you realize your yes affects others, you stop needing understanding. When you realize your fire is not private, you stop apologizing for your obedience. God chose you because He knew you would move past yourself. That's why He allowed the pain to humble you. That's why He didn't give you easy access. He needed someone who would never forget the weight even when the platform came. He knew you wouldn't hoard the fire. He knew you wouldn't use the scroll for status. He knew you wouldn't water it down for applause. Because you were never seeking elevation, you were seeking alignment. And now, you're walking into the portion of your journey where your yes isn't about you at all. It's about sons and daughters who haven't yet found their voice. It's about weary warriors who forgot they were sealed. It's about the quiet ones who feel invisible, waiting for someone new to step forward and remind them who they are. You've cried for generations. You've wept over systems. You've asked God to heal what you didn't even experience firsthand. That's because you were marked for intercession in motion. You were marked to carry burdens that didn't originate in you, but will end through you. You are the cutoff point, the breaker, the torchbearer, the transitional one. Don't grow weary in the middle. Don't get distracted by temporary discomfort. Don't minimize your reach because you can't see the ripple. The ripple is real. It's spiritual. It's active now. And no one can stop it except your delay. So stay the course. Carry the scroll. Speak what burns. Move when heaven says move. Because your obedience is multiplying even when it feels unseen. Your steps are paving a way even when it feels like wilderness. Your sacrifice is shifting futures even when you feel forgotten. This is bigger than visibility, bigger than outcomes, bigger than answers. This is legacy. This is kingdom. This is assignment without ego. This is fire that flows through you, not to elevate you. And heaven is smiling, because you still said yes. Chosen one. The window is narrowing. The assignment hasn't changed, but the timing has tightened. The clock in the spirit realm is not like the one you check on your phone. It moves in moments, divine intersections where obedience and opportunity collide. And right now, you are standing in one of those moments. This is why you feel the pressure, why your peace has become sharper, why hesitation now feels like heaviness, why every delay starts to drain you faster than before. It's not because you're under attack. It's because you're standing in a window that's about to close. Not in punishment, but in transition. God is not angry. He's moving. And if you don't move with Him, you'll find yourself outside, the flow trying to make yesterday's pace fit today's instruction. But the scroll does not wait, and heaven is not stuck. You've seen this pattern in Scripture. Noah didn't have forever to build. The rains came. Esther didn't have the luxury of endless preparation. The decree was signed. Elijah couldn't sit and wait on another cloud. The moment came when he had to run ahead of the storm. There's a point in every assignment where grace is no longer just covering you, it's calling you forward. That's where you are. And the danger isn't falling into sin, it's staying still. Because stillness in a moving hour is not safety, it's surrender to spiritual stagnation. And stagnation never stays neutral. It begins to rot what once was fresh. That's why your passion has started to fade when you try to stay behind. Your joy starts to leak. Your clarity starts to fog. It's not that God left. It's that you stopped walking when the cloud kept moving. Obedience is a living rhythm. It's not just about saying yes once. It's about saying yes again when the window opens. And when it opens, you don't negotiate, you move. Because that window doesn't just offer opportunity, it offers alignment. And alignment is fragile. It's not fragile because God is fragile, it's fragile because your flesh is. The longer you sit still, the more your mind starts to build justifications. The longer you pause, the more your heart starts to shrink under self-doubt. The longer you delay, the more you'll need another prophecy to confirm what you already knew weeks ago. This is why heaven keeps applying pressure, not to punish, but to protect your timeline. There are moments rare and holy when the curtain parts, and God says, now, not tomorrow, not once it's convenient, not once you've saved up. Now, because the region you've been sent to is groaning. The people assigned to your obedience are starving. The enemy has built systems during your silence, and they must be confronted now. Not every instruction carries that urgency, but this one does. You can feel it in your bones. That restless shaking when you sit too long. That holy fire pressing against your chest in quiet rooms. That knowing that what you're waiting on isn't more confirmation, it's courage. Chosen one. The assignment hasn't expired, but the window is narrowing. If you keep circling this same mountain of preparation, you'll end up missing the moment you were actually prepared for. Because the purpose of the wilderness was never to build a house. It was to get you ready to cross over. And once the time to cross comes, the wilderness is no longer training, it's a trap. Don't confuse God's patience with an unlimited window. He is kind. He is merciful. But He is also moving, and you were never meant to stay in the tent of rehearsal. You were made to stand on the ground of fulfillment. This is the moment. You've fasted. You've wept. You've been crushed. You've been rebuilt. You've been sealed. The scroll has arrived at your name, and the time to open it is now. Let the weight shake off. Let the lies fall away. Let the delay die here. Because one step in obedience will recover what years of waiting never could. One moment of saying yes in the fire will realign you with heaven's original timeline. This isn't fear-mongering. This is spiritual awareness. And it's love. Because God doesn't want to raise up a remnant who heard but never moved. You are not behind. But you're also not early. You are standing in the exact center of divine release. What you do next matters more than you know. Not for image, not for status, for alignment. So cross now, build now, speak now, move now. The window is narrowing, but it hasn't closed yet. Heaven is waiting not forever, but for now. Chosen one. This assignment rewires legacy. You are not simply responding to a personal call. You are shifting everything behind and ahead of you. Every time you obey, you are not just stepping into your own future. You are rewriting history. You are breaking the cycles that ruled your bloodline. You are confronting the generational patterns that robbed your ancestors. You are planting seeds that your descendants will harvest in wholeness. This is the power of your yes. It echoes in both directions, into the past and into the future. You've felt it. That deep spiritual tension. The weight that doesn't match your years. The way you've had to war for things others inherited easily. It's because you were chosen to reroute the flow where others conformed. You had to confront where others bowed. You had to stand where others stayed small. You were asked to burn higher. And yes, it has felt lonely. Yes, it has cost you comfort. But heaven entrusted this fire to you on purpose, because you would not waste it, because you would not bow to cultural pressure, because you would not sell your scroll for applause or convenience. This fire is generational. This assignment is prophetic construction. You are not just building in this hour, you are laying down stone for timelines beyond your own. Others will rise from the ground you've prayed over. Children will walk freely on paths you bled to clear. Voices will speak boldly because you chose to obey in silence. God is not just shifting your personal life, He is cleansing a lineage through your yes. And that kind of legacy doesn't come from titles. It comes from private obedience. It comes from quiet consecration. It comes from the moments you kept your altar burning when everyone else went to sleep. It is that consistency, not charisma, that rewires bloodlines. And now, the scroll is asking more of you. Not more noise, not more striving, but more depth, more intentionality, more faithfulness, not in being seen, but in being sealed. Because the fire is multiplying. It's moving past your name. It's beginning to ripple outward. Through rooms, through regions, through generations you will never meet in the flesh, but who will carry your fire in their bones. This is the Abrahamic reality. Through you, all nations will be blessed. This is the Davidic covenant. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever. This is the apostolic mandate. Generations will know my name because of your obedience. So no, you don't have the option to quit. You don't have the permission to delay. You don't have the luxury of staying silent, because there is a scroll in your blood, and it's not done turning. There is still more to release, still more to burn. Still more to say, still more to confront. And what you confront now will be removed from the line behind you. You are the last one in your family who will wrestle with what you're wrestling with. You are the breaker, not just the survivor. You are the initiator, not just the inheritor. You are the one heaven trusted to rewire the line. As we read in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9 says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping His covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments." That's the kind of legacy you're walking in. Not for 10 years, for 1,000 generations. So let this settle in your spirit. Your obedience is bigger than your lifetime. Your fire is deeper than your season. Your yes is altering the spiritual DNA of everything connected to your name. And that should sober you. That should awaken you. That should silence the lies that say, "It's not that deep." Because it is that deep, it's eternal. So carry it carefully. carry it boldly. Carry it fully. Because this time, the legacy ends with you or begins with you. And heaven is watching what you do next. If this word marked you, if you feel the weight of legacy burning in your chest, then let heaven see your agreement. Make it public. Let it be written. Like this message, so the algorithm does what the anointing already intended: multiplication. Share it with someone else who's the first in their bloodline to burn like this. Subscribe to stay aligned with every scroll dropped into the earth through this series. And comment below to mark your turning point. One phrase: I finish with fire. Let it be your decree, your covenant, your war cry. Your bloodline may have started in struggle, but it ends in fire. Chosen one, you must understand the power of quiet dominion. You've been trained in fire. You've been forged in pain. You've walked through intensity, through wilderness, through confrontation. And now comes the part many overlook, the part where God teaches you how to carry authority without noise, how to govern in the spirit without striving in the flesh, how to rule quietly. Not every scroll is shouted. Some are walked. Not every breakthrough is public. Some happen in the shadows. Not every command needs thunder. Some move mountains through still obedience. This is the hour you begin to carry the weight of stillness, and it may confuse you at first. You've grown accustomed to fire, to movement, to urgent declarations and open confrontation. But what heaven is doing now requires a different expression of authority, not les serbu matures, because there's a kind of dominion that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove anything. It knows what it carries. It walks into rooms and shifts them by presence alone. That's where you are being led now, not into hiding, but into governing silence. Silence that speaks. Stillness that holds weight. Presence that confronts without words. The world confuses movement with power, but the spirit realm understands stillness as strategy. Jesus slept in storms. Esther waited in silence. Elijah heard God in a whisper, not an earthquake. And Moses stood still while the sea split itself open. You've shouted. You've moved. You've obeyed publicly. Now God is teaching you how to steward presence without performance. This is where your roots go deeper. This is where your discernment sharpens. Because when you're no longer distracted by noise, you start to hear what truly matters. You start to sense shifts before they surface. You start to move with God, not just for Him. And that shift is everything. In the days ahead, you will feel heaven call you to pull back, not as retreat, but as refinement. Don't fight it. Don't panic. Don't think you've lost your fire. You haven't. The flame is maturing. It's settling into your bones. You no longer have to stoke it with volume. It's burning consistently now, even in stillness. This is how generals are trained, not through constant action, but through internal readiness, through watching, through listening, through saying no to noise and yes to atmospheric discernment. Because what God is about to entrust you with next cannot be carried by those addicted to movement. It must be carried by those who have learned to govern environments without being moved by them. Quiet dominion looks like this. You walk into chaos and speak peace without shouting. You sit in rooms of compromise and stay unshaken. You discern warfare before it manifests and disarm it through still posture. You make decisions in silence that reshape futures. It is not less spiritual. It is not less powerful. It is more costly because stillness requires intimacy. Stillness requires internal fire. Stillness requires trust that God is working even when you are not visible. You're not disappearing. You're deepening. You're not fading. You're fortifying. You're not withdrawing. You're governing in shadows. And in this quiet place, you will hear instructions no one else does. You will catch strategies that won't be released on platforms. You will gain access to keys that only unlock from stillness. You were loud when you needed to be. Now, you are learning the discipline of restraint. Because power is not always in declaring, it's in knowing when not to speak. As we read in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 7 says, "A time to be silent and a time to speak." This is your season of intentional silence. And not because you have nothing to say, but because you now know not everything needs to be said. Not every battle needs your commentary. Not every shift requires your sound. There are moments when silence is the sound of governmental trust. When silence is how you carry the weight of wisdom. When silence is the clearest sign that you know who you are and whose you are. Chosen one. Do not fear the quiet. It is not loss, it is leadership in its purest form. You are learning to walk like the ones who carry scrolls too heavy for spectacle. You are learning to steward atmospheres through presence, not performance. And this, too, is obedience. This, too, is fire. It just burns quieter now, but no less bright. So let God mature your mantle. Let Him slow your pace. Let Him speak in whispers. Let Him train you in unseen rooms. Because those who govern silently are the ones who can be trusted with storm-level authority and not be moved. Chosen one. By now you've realized this was never just a journey of calling. This was a journey of becoming. God wasn't simply leading you into an assignment. He was forming a vessel strong enough to sustain it. What felt like delay was actually divine construction. What felt like silence was preparation. What felt like loss was the stripping of everything that could not go with you. Because destiny doesn't rest on emotion, it rests on architecture. And God has spent years building something eternal within you. Not visible yet, but undeniable. You didn't just survive fire. You became fire. You didn't just walk through storms. You learned how to govern them. Every trial carved authority. Every betrayal deepened discernment. Every wilderness rewrote your inner rhythm. So now, you don't move like the others. You don't speak like the others. You don't approach spiritual things like a spectator anymore. You are a keeper of scrolls, a midwife of mandate, a carrier of end-time fire. You are different. And it's not accidental. It's architected by heaven. This difference has cost you relationships, comfort, simplicity. There have been days when you've wondered if the price was too high. But here you are, still burning, still faithful, still saying yes when it would be easier to settle. And because of that, you are ready to walk in the full measure of what was written. No more rehearsal, no more preview. The scroll is fully unrolled now, and this is what it has revealed. You are a walking altar. You are a breaker of delay. You are the one who says yes, not just for yourself, but for those too bound to speak yet. You are the hinge on which generational doors swing open. And this isn't hype. It's reality. This is who you actually are. You've stopped apologizing for your anointing. You've stopped explaining the weight you carry. You've stopped trying to fit into wineskins you've outgrown. Now, you walk with clarity. Now, You govern with stillness. Now, you obey with finality. Because this isn't a season anymore, it's a mantle, a permanent one. You've been sealed, not to a moment, not to a trend, but to a heavenly rhythm, one that doesn't sway with cultural pressure or personal mood. You've become anchored in the instruction itself, and that means something sacred. You can no longer be stopped by external chaos. You've already faced the shaking. You've already been sifted. You've already had every idol stripped, every shortcut removed, every easy exit exposed and burned down. And yet, here you stand full of fire, eyes wide open, feet planted in scroll alignment. You are immovable, not because you feel strong, but because your foundation was built in deep places. This is what maturity feels like. Less noise, more weight, fewer crowds, more clarity. No performance, just presence. The performance has ended. The wilderness has expired. The silence has done its work. And now, you walk as one who will not be moved. You are the fulfillment of years of intercession. You are the answer to someone else's unanswered cries. You are the dream God protected when you were still too broken to carry it. And heaven never gave up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. It watched over your scroll while you wandered. It preserved your fire even when you fell silent. It stood between you and the pit more times than you'll ever know. Because God knew. He knew the real you, the chosen you, the sealed one who would return stronger, the warrior who would burn brighter after the wilderness, the one who would finally stand without shaking. And now that one has emerged, not by might, not by strength, but by spirit. And it is from this place that you will move forward, not rushing, not striving, but established. You've been given divine clarity, scroll, precision, and holy authority. You don't need more validation. You don't need another prophetic word. You don't need applause, momentum, or perfect conditions. You have the scroll. You have the fire. You have the yes that will not be revoked. And this yes, this final, refined, matured yes is what heaven has been waiting for. So go now, not just to do, but to become, not just to speak, but to reign in stillness, with fire in your bones and the scroll burning in your hands. The assignment is no longer coming. It's here. And you, chosen on air, ready, chosen one. If these words have found you, it's not by chance. It's alignment. The scroll you carry was never meant to stay sealed. You were never meant to walk this path alone. What heaven has released into your life through this message is not just a moment of encouragement, it's a commissioning. You've felt the fire stir again. You've heard the call loud and clear. Now, let your response be public. Let your yes echo where others can find their own. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, stand in agreement. If it exposed delay and reignited your clarity, mark this shift. If it stirred a deeper obedience, respond in faith. Like this message so others like you will see it when they need it most. Comment below with your affirmation. One phrase, one decision, one wordlet. Heaven and earth, see that you are not silent. Share this word with someone you know is carrying weight they haven't yet released. Subscribe to stay aligned with the voice of fire as more is released in due time. Don't let this be the last word that marks you. And if you feel that if this message has poured into your life and you feel the Spirit nudge you to pour back, you can sow into this scroll. Your gift helps carry this word further, to places you may never reach, but where others are still waiting to awaken. No pressure, no force, only if the Spirit leads. What's been activated in you isn't temporary, it's eternal. Let your response carry weight. The scroll has turned, and your yes is now recorded in fire.